So are you ready to PR yourself? We'll remove the mystery from all things PR, and we'll discuss everything from our top strategies to tips and tricks and everything that you can utilize to further enhance your brand or your message. I've been in media, I'm a journalist, and I'm also a publicist. I am Leah Frazier, CEO of Think3 Media, and your host for PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. Let's go. And welcome back to another episode of PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I am your host, Leah Frazier, and I'm so excited that you decided to tune in and join us today. Life has been incredibly busy. I have been on the road with clients, different events. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was in New York with CEW, the Cosmetics Executive Women Organization, phenomenal organization. Left there. The following week was at Cosmoprof Beauty in Las Vegas with another client. And then following after that, did the NABJ conference, the National Association of Black Journalists conference out in Chicago. That was crazy. Some of you guys know of some of the buzz that was going on around that conference. You can just Google that. But I was absolutely there for that. 5,000 Black journalists, news anchors, editors from all over the U.S. was there. So it was incredible networking. It was great to see my fellow friends from the Dallas-Fort Worth area out there, from particularly some of our news stations that I deal with on a daily basis. So it was good to connect with them outside of the city and just have a good time. But what they didn't tell us was going on while we were there in Chicago was Lollapalooza. So Chicago was just popping. Like, there was so much going on. I couldn't even get into the hotel to park. Had to park a couple of blocks over. But I mean, what do you expect when Sexy Red, Meg Thee Stallion, and all those big guys are in town, So I was holed up in the hotel, so I didn't really get to go and explore Lollapalooza, but I did get to do a bit of walking downtown. And so I am a big fan of Chicago. And next time I go back, I want to explore a little bit more. It seems like they really have got a lot of amazing culture. And, I'm super excited. I'm getting ready to head back out of town. So I'll be going back to Las Vegas for Magic. Any of you guys that are in the fashion industry, you know how big of a deal that trade show is. And then not too far after that, I've been invited to come out to North Carolina for a travel festival to meet with a bunch of destination brands and, different tourism for different cities. So I'm very excited about the partnerships that may come with that. So, I mean, I am PRing myself. How about you? I'm just thinking of all the episodes that we could do. Like, there's so much that has been going on. I really want to do an episode. This is going to make you guys laugh, on Snoop and his role within the Olympics. Like, I honestly think however NBC Universal came up with that, with him being like our unofficial brand ambassador in Paris for the Olympics, I thought it was absolutely genius. He has been so fun to watch. And sure, a lot of us grew up on Snoop and we know his background and we don't really know him as a person. So I just think the branding around him being involved in the Olympics has totally just reshaped his image, regardless of the fact that he wants to smoke a little some every now and again. And really, it ain't every now and again. It's all day long. However you feel about that subject. But I love Snoop. I think it was incredibly genius. I think it took some of the stiffness away from the interviews and from the platform as a whole. I felt like the athletes really liked it. Jesus. I think the athletes really liked interacting with him because I just watched how natural those interviews were with Snoop. And I just think it was a great brand decision on both ends. So hit me up. Let me know what you think about that. PR Yourself Podcast on Instagram, or you can hit me up, leah@think3media.com. Let me know what you think about that. I'm very curious, but I would love to dive in with another publicist and talk about branding, or at least how this contributed to his public persona in a positive way. just by virtue of him being our unofficial brand ambassador. It was like the addition to the Olympics that we didn't even know that we needed. So speaking of smoking a little something, something, today's episode is going to feature Michael Mejer, who is the founder of Green Lane Communication. It's a public and media relations firm that is dedicated to the cannabis industry. And he understands, and he has an incredible story of how he started his agency or his firm, and just really just being based off of just having this affinity and having the background and the knowledge from just dealing with businesses in the cannabis industry and taking that passion and then building his own business out of it. But what I think I took away from our conversation the most that you're going to hear is that regardless of what industry you're in. So I went in the interview thinking, tell me everything you know about how to strategize for cannabis brands, thinking, and I know for a fact that we have some that tune in because I'm a sponsor for some of Branch Farms is one for for their CBD brand. Okay. So here I am, I'm walking into the conversation thinking, tell me specifically as it pertains to this specific industry, PR strategies, tips, and tricks for the audience. But the biggest thing that I got, the biggest takeaway I got from our conversation is that regardless of the industry that you're in, the approach is still the same. So he's going to give out some tips, some nuggets. Like y'all are, if you watch the visual, podcast on my YouTube channel, you're going to see me like snapping him up, like preach, Michael, preach. Because he's, regardless of the brand, the strategy and the approach oftentimes is the same. So if you're able, as a small business owner, to really just fine tune your skills on these 3 or 4 things that he mentions, regardless of how difficult you may think it may be for your industry, it's actually the same. And that was the biggest takeaway that I got from our conversation. And so I want you to dive in. I want you to just truly listen to the tips that he has to give. And honestly, Mike, I'm a fan. So congratulations on everything that you've been able to accomplish so far with Green Lane Communication. So you guys know what to do. Go grab your pen, your pencil, your iPad, whatever you take your notes with. Go get cozy. Hey, maybe have a nice little CBD drink, or have a little gummy while you listen to our episode. And I'm thinking about the gummies that I have currently. So you know what to do. Just sit back, relax, keep it locked in here, get ready to take notes and be inspired. And I will be right back with Michael Mejer, founder of Green Lane Communications, right after we hear a word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
All right, and welcome back to another episode of PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I am so excited, y'all, because today I get to kind of be off the cuff in an industry where some of you are fans, but you're too afraid to say you're a fan, but I'm not afraid to say I'm a fan. We're talking all things about PR in the cannabis industry with our Cannabis PR Pro here today, Michael Mejer. And Michael is the founder of Green Lane Communications, and you actually founded your company specifically for businesses in the cannabis industry. Am I correct?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I appreciate you having me on, Leah. This is going to be a good one, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, I'm super excited because, and we'll get into this a little bit later. It's almost like that area that sparks interest, but when it comes to like PR and media, sometimes folks act scared. Like, oh,
Mhm.
I don't know. What will somebody think about me? Or can I get this approved on up through the chain at a news station to even talk about this? So I'm excited to get your thoughts since this is totally your lane. But before we get into that, why don't you talk to our audience just a little bit about how did you get into PR, and then specifically, how did you decide that this was the avenue I wanted to go with your company?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always love telling this story. So I originally got started in PR, working in the book publishing industry. So at the time, what I was doing is I was working at a boutique firm in New York. And what we would do is we would help a lot of thought leaders who were, their day jobs were founders, CEO, C-suite level executive. And right around that 2011, 2012 time period, keynote speaking, coaching, and consulting became very popular. I think it was just because of social media, and a lot of people saw people getting up on stages and they were like, you know what? I have this zone of genius. I want to put out a book and I want to add this additional revenue stream and build out a personal brand. So we helped them essentially launch their books, help them get into the Forbes, the Inks, the Fast Companies of the world. And they would essentially take those media assets, roll them up into their sales and marketing material, and then use that as credibility, trust, to break down the doors and get into the Sprints, the Toyotas, the GMs of the world to go do their thing there. So that's kind of where I got started in PR and how I saw PR and media coverage helping individuals and brands and companies just kind of keep moving that needle forward and advancing their brands and businesses. Fast forward about 3 years or so, New York did not have an adult use legal cannabis program at the time, but hemp and CBD were allowed. And so one day I just rolled up into a hemp wellness destination, as I like to call it, because I feel like calling it a store is almost
It's
not
an
doing it justice.
experience. It's an
It
experience.
is. It is. And the experience that I had there really changed the game for me big time. So I went in and I was just chatting it up with the owner. She was super, super helpful, very nice. Just trying to figure out, how does all this stuff work at a physiological level? Like, give me the science on this. I'm super interested. I've seen the YouTube videos of this changing people's lives. I know a little bit about the science of it because I did a research paper on it for school, but I want to hear from a true expert how this works. So about 5 minutes into that visit, in came an older gentleman, and he was suffering from some really debilitating tremors, to the point where his wife came in and she had to hold the door open for him. She was doing the talking for him because he just couldn't really control his body and formulate sentences. It was that bad. And so she just said straight up, she was like, look, we've tried a bunch of different pharmaceutical solutions and treatments, but anything that gives us even a sliver of hope, the laundry list of side effects that are negative outweigh any of the positive. So you got anything here that may help? And so the owner said, look, I'm not going to make you any promises, but have a seat over there. I'll give you a tincture. We'll see what happens. You cool with that? And so gentleman sat down, tried it. I looked over and about maybe 2 minutes or so that went by, I look over and all of a sudden I just see his tremors subsiding so much that he's now able to regain control of his body. And the first words that come out of his mouth, he looks up at the store owner and he just goes, I need the biggest bottle of whatever shit it was you just gave me. And at that point, it was like a light switch. It just flipped for me. And I said to myself, you know what? I love PR. I love connecting with reporters and bridging the gap between the experts that they want to hear from and making those connections and seeing the coverage go live. Like I get a rush from it. I wasn't running away from PR, but when I saw what was going on here, I thought to myself, you know what, this would be incredible to educate the mainstream media and just the general public on the impact that this can have for so many people dealing with so many different ailments. So from there, I pretty much just decided to fly around the country, went to different conferences, trade shows, stoked up as much knowledge as I possibly could on the industry, the community, the plant, the people, you name it. And I quickly realized that there were a lot of hurdles that brands and businesses were facing when it came to marketing and advertising, especially when it came to social media and traditional paid routes that were just not even concerns for most traditional businesses. And a great workaround to all that is earned media, because when you get an interview in, let's say, a Forbes or an NJ Biz Daily, or you're on a podcast route and you're doing all these different shows and you're interviewing and you're doing all that. It's earned media, it's journalism. It's not like you're running a paid ad and saying, buy my product, buy my product. You're really just informing people why this topic that you're speaking to is important. And so that was a phenomenal workaround that a lot of brands jumped on board with. And they were starting to take advantage of and see the value in PR when it came to the cannabis industry. So I remember I was coming home from a conference in Las Vegas, and on that flight, I just took out a legal pad, took out a pen, and I was like, all right, here we go. So I pretty much just put together the whole business plan on that flight, got to work as soon as I touched back at home. And I guess we could say the rest is history.
Well, just congratulations for figuring out a need and just being the person to say, like, I'm going to be the one to spearhead this thing. And then using the skills that you already had, and I'm sure some of the connections that you already had, to essentially build a business that helps people, not just the business owner, but this helps get the message to the consumer. And so I absolutely love that story. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So one of my questions that I have for you is just how hard was this? Because I remember I used to do a lot of beauty coverage. And we would have this expo come to Dallas like every year called the Indie Beauty Expo. And one year it was just this flip where it was all CBD beauty. Like literally, I felt like it was a whole section of CBD beauty. And so I was talking to my editor and I'm like, we've got to be able to talk about the trend in skincare going towards using CBD in these products. And there was a bit of hesitation and I really started to get pissed. And even in that lane, I would always field stories also to our news anchors and reporters because they would be like, Leah, what's on trend? Like, what did you see? And I'm like, yeah, it's cute that there's this new makeup eraser, but half the conference and half the expo was on CBD beauty and CBD skincare. And they were like, sorry, I understand that's what you're saying, but we would have to go through so many levels of approval just to talk about it. They didn't want to understand it. And it was a no. Like I literally got so many doors slammed in my face and I was so pissed because I was like, I'm just trying to educate the public on something that like, here's the trend, here's where beauty is going, and here's how this could help you. And media was like, nope. So how hard was that for you in the beginning to push past some of those barriers and maybe just educate the public and our news folks on what this is? And it's in saying, look, I'm not asking you to promote weed. It's completely different. How was that for you?
Yeah. So quick question too. Do you remember what year that was when you were experiencing that challenge?
Indie Beauty Expo, it definitely was pre-pandemic. Let's just say it was probably 2018, maybe around 2017, 2018 is the last time they were here in Dallas.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think now, going back to that challenging time, what I found was, to your point, they didn't, when I say they had preferred the media, but they didn't want to come across as them promoting cannabis. And I think you nailed it, right? I think that was their biggest fear. They didn't want to be seen in that light. A lot of the times when I was working with companies, I was coming in from a business angle. And so there were new dispensaries opening up. There were business leaders that had specific zones of genius. Maybe it was related to real estate or investment banking. And so I was offering up those thought leaders and those experts, bringing in that vantage point to the cannabis industry and educating the industry trade publications, as well as some of the more mainstream media outlets as well. But I was really trying to focus on their expertise and what they bring to the table in terms of educating the public as far as, okay, real estate and cannabis, how do these two things work? Supply chain, dispensaries opening up. What are they doing? What local businesses are they partnering up with? What nonprofits are they partnering up with? What are they doing in terms of impact on the community? And so I would always want to bring it back to, okay, yes, this is a cannabis business, whether it's something that was focused on THC or whether it was a CBD or hemp product, whatever it may have been. But I never wanted the pitch or my communication to be solely on, let's do a promotion on this pot shop. Like it never came across that way. It was more so like, hey, this is the state's first woman hemp farmer. She's opening up a new dispensary. This is actually the first dispensary in this state's city right over here. They're partnering up with this nonprofit and they're having this business attend at the grand opening, and the local chamber of commerce is going to be there. I would love for you to attend. And here's what you can get by connecting with her and speaking with her. This is what she's fluent in. More than happy to set that up for you. If you want to have an interview with her, please let me know. Happy to coordinate that in advance. That's the kind of approach I was taking to it. And so that's what was getting a lot of success for businesses at that time when it was such a challenge. And so I think when you approach it from that sense versus, hey, I've got this new product, can you write an article about how dope it is? That's going to scare people away. So I know that was a little bit of a long-winded response, but I hope that
I needed you to do that, because then it helps to, because we do have a lot of listeners and I don't know what everybody's business is. And in the beginning, I did actually have a sponsor that was CBD related. So I know they're probably listening, so that would be great. But yeah, that's good for them to position them as thought leaders or someone that can educate versus, hey, just solely focus on my amazing product. So, but as we're kind of now in 2024, so clearly there's a difference between what I witnessed in 2017, 2018 versus 2024. We've kind of gotten over ourselves. How has that been different from you from a PR standpoint with these products or businesses? What does the pitch look like now?
So media is definitely more open to it, whereas before it involved, I think, a little bit more hand holding and explaining and really trying to overcompensate for the fact that, hey, look, I'm not trying to say that I want you to write an article about how amazing this pot is or anything like that, right? It's like you used to have to do that. But now, if you kind of have your ducks in a row and you're pitching something and this goes for all PR, not even just cannabis PR, but if you're pitching something that's timely, relevant to the journalist or reporter, it aligns with a beat or topic that the outlet and the writer themselves is actually focused on, not that 9 out of 10 times it's going to hit, but you've got a pretty good chance of, at the very least, getting an email to be opened and responded to. And maybe they pick it up, maybe they don't. But now I think that level of friction has sort of faded away. And so now we can have more conversations where people are more interested in understanding, okay, how does the industry work? How does this plant work? Wait a second, I've had a gummy, but I've never had a beverage. Can you set up an interview with the CEO of that company? Because I would love to understand how this works. So now the questions that are coming back around are not, hey, can you get lost? I don't want to cover pot. Now it's more so like, okay, we're seeing a lot of the media be kind of curious. And so it's sometimes still a challenging conversation, but it's a much more fun conversation and more lighthearted and easier to be had, I think, and just from what I've experienced over the last several years.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad we're there. And speaking of the beverages, I've had some very delightful ones. I will say that I've had some very good ones and like all sorts of different flavors, like blood orange or like, passion fruit berry, and it's got a little THC in there, and it's just, it's great. So like get into it.
It makes doing dishes a hell of a lot easier and a hell of a lot more enjoyable. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's more fun. It's more fun that way. Well, this is great. So talk to me a little bit about best practices. I loved the tips you gave before, just from a general PR perspective, timely, relevant, making sure that you're staying within maybe trending topics or newsworthy content. But what are some other best practice tips that you can give for folks who may have products or maybe in the cannabis industry to where they can navigate it a little bit easier?
Yeah, so I think just with newsrooms and editorial staff shrinking, I think it's more important than ever to really connect with the people that you're trying to pitch stories to. So at a tactical level, what that means is following them on social media. LinkedIn and Twitter are great places to connect with the editors, the writers, reporters, and journalists, podcast hosts like yourself.
Michael,
Um,
Michael, Michael,
I
would
feel
you,
I feel like we're
Michael,
doing something right here. We're doing something
Michael,
right.
Michael, say it one more time. Just one more time. Just say it one more time. Where should they be?
LinkedIn and Twitter.
I literally just put this in a group today. Shout out to Traffic Sales and Profits. That he was like, "What nugget can you drop?" I'm like, "Get your ass on LinkedIn, Twitter. They literally will have their email addresses in the bio, or if you shoot them a DM, they'll give it to you."
And they love the fact that you will reach out to them in a DM or comment on a post and say, "Hey, I have something that I think is right up your alley. Do you have a preferred email address for me to send more information to?"
Mike, we done. This podcast is done. You have boosted my ego. You have reconfirmed everything I've been saying for years because y'all don't want to listen to me. I'm just the host. I'm just the host. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But Mike literally just reconfirmed something I put in another group today. So I'm not just talking out my ass. Okay, what else do you have for us? I'm sorry, that just got me really excited.
No, I'm glad because I think people need to hear it. It's not rocket science, but it's very simple concepts of just respect their time. I mean, how would you feel if I mean even okay, so you said it yourself, there are business owners that listen to this podcast, correct? So if we're talking about pitching a media professional on your story and you're sending them off topic pitches, they write about I don't know. Let's say they cover the public markets, right? So they're covering stocks, bonds, all that kind of stuff, right? And you pitch them a story to write about your pet. That's the equivalent of you being a business owner and your business is let's say you're a dispensary owner and somebody's going to pitch you to come clean your gym. They're like, "Hey, we have a fitness center cleaning service and we'd love to come clean your pool." What? You're just going to put that in spam. You're going to delete it. It's the same concept there. Just know your audience, do a little bit of research. It's amazing how 2 minutes of research and due diligence can make when it comes to building rapport with somebody in the media because they get tens, if not hundreds of useless, hollow pitches and emails every single day. And so a very easy way to stand out and build rapport is just by listening to them. And and this has happened to me several times too. So if you'll send an editor an editorial friendly piece of content and they just have a little bit of feedback for you and say, "Hey, would you be able to insert a couple links to sources so that we can verify where these stats are coming from?" Dissolve the ego. All right, buddy. Like it's cool. They're basically giving you a thumbs up. They're about to accept that they just want the source links so that they can cover their tracks with their higher ups. Insert the damn source links. And then on top of it, down the road, there's probably going to be another editor that appreciates you doing that ahead of time. So instead of going back and chewing them up and saying, "Oh, no, you don't deserve this article, blah, blah, blah," just drop the ego, learn from the feedback, and keep it moving forward. I can't tell you how many times I've heard PR pros just getting really like wound up over these things. And I'm like, take the feedback. Like, this is how you grow. This is how you learn. This is how you get better. So I don't know. I could go on a whole tangent, but anywho, that's my tactical advice right there.
That's great. And even just piggybacking on what Mike says, I go ahead and I hyperlink the report, the if it came from a business journal or wherever because right now we're in Black Business Month and for a lot of my clients, Black Philanthropy Month. So I'm hyperlinking where I'm getting the 3% of blah, 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 or there's only
Bingo.
3.6 million Black owned businesses in America. Okay, well, where are we getting that number from? Hyperlink. That way they don't have to even come back to me. Mm-hmm. You have everything you need. So that was an awesome nugget. We'll let you give them that. Before we kind of round out this conversation, Mike, quick question. Like, what are you seeing trending in your industry? Is there like a specific area that you're seeing that reporters are really interested in? Is it more on the wellness side? Are they more interested on the recreational? Like, what are you seeing trending within the cannabis industry?
I think right now, a hot topic is definitely the election, right? So it's an election year. Cannabis legalization,
We
descheduling,
the
rescheduling, all of
people need
these,
it. The people need it.
all yeah, yeah.
We the people
Yes, yes,
need whatever you can
1010%.
send us before November, please. God.
Send all the goodie bags, send the PR packages, please. Yeah. But that's a big trending topic right now. And so people are just analyzing what both parties are going to bring to the table, not going to bring to the table. So I think that's definitely a big one that's being covered right now. Amongst that, the publicly traded cannabis companies, both in the US and based in Canada, those are always hot topics because people want to know how they're performing. And outside of that, a lot of the innovations that are coming into the space. So on the manufacturing and production side, how are some of these ancillary companies using AI, robotics, Industry 4.0 technology in the space to help these companies that are running on such thin profit margins continue to not just sustain themselves, but also thrive and grow and expand. So I think those are all relevant topics, but definitely the big one right now for sure is definitely cannabis as it relates to legalization of the election for sure.
And it's so funny you say that because I've never really thought about that. Like my mind didn't even go there. You yourself and your company, do you find yourself kind of almost in an advocacy role sometimes? Do people reach out to you as they're thinking about, you know, politically where candidates may stand, or like where are we seeing the industry? Do folks reach out to you for advice? Because you yourself, even as the firm, in representing these business owners and knowing their struggles, or maybe being able to see where things are headed, you're the subject matter expert yourself. So are you also involved in advocacy for the industry as well?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I personally always defer to the experts. So there will be folks, whether it's an editor, reporter, journalist, whoever it may be, they may have specific media requests or journal requests where they say, "Hey, I would love to hear from somebody with blank background, comment on blank." And just as you said, it could relate to a specific topic within legalization or a specific topic as it relates to the election and cannabis and the future of it. And so that's where I feel is my responsibility to step in, whether it's a client or somebody I know that is not a client, but they're incredibly well versed and fluent in that world. It's my job to connect them with that person because that's how we get the right information out at the right time for the right reasons.
I love that. I love that. Well, congrats to you, Mike. This is amazing. Now, look, you
Thank
guys,
you.
at a certain point, I know this is called PR yourself, but at a certain point, we want it to be at a point where you go and you look for the experts. And so, Mike, where can folks find you, follow you, reach out to you, especially if they're either thinking about potentially getting into the industry or they currently are in the industry and they just want to maybe hire your firm or hire your expertise? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm super accessible on LinkedIn. I'm posting on there all the time, just trying to debunk a bunch of PR myths and bring the truth
Listen, he
and help
snatched
people see through the
wigs
smoke
this
and
morning.
mirrors.
I don't even know if it was this morning. I read it this morning. So wait, let me tell y'all about Mike.
Oh boy.
Okay, yeah, it was 3 hours ago. He was
Okay,
talking,
let's
he
do
was,
it.
he said, he was on a call this week with a marketing leader expressed why she refused to hire a PR firm. See, he was already snatching our wigs and eyebrows and eyelashes off. And then says she sees tremendous value in earning media coverage, speaking at conferences and all the things PR folks can do, but she's been oversold by some PR superstar that then turned the account to a PR rookie. You were talking about they bragged about having media relationships, and then with that particular client failed to do anything with the engagement there, or some PR firm charging a hefty retainer with nothing to show for it. And so pretty much your post was just like, look, don't ruin it for the rest of us who's actually out here doing good work. If you're in PR, here's what you need to do: charge fair rates, deliver consistent coverage. I mean, I was like, I felt like I was in PR church. I was like, yes, 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 yes. Because I feel like I get all the calls after you've been with someone that's done you dirty. And I'm
I'm with
getting,
you. I'm trying to stop that.
so I was like, why are you doing this, Mike, on a Friday morning? Really? But yeah,
PR Church, you called it. I'm gonna run with it. I like that a lot.
going to PR Church with Pastor Mike Mejer. Well, check him out on
Oh my
LinkedIn.
goodness.
I love those tips. I'm a fan. I'm telling you, I was like shouting here in my little home, my home little pew over here, supporting you.
I love that.
So tell folks once again how to contact you and maybe some cool things you got coming up in the future.
Yeah, so definitely, I'm always accessible on LinkedIn. Connect with me there on my, through my personal profile. Follow us, Green Lane Communication on LinkedIn as well. You can check us out at greenlanecommunication.com. And we're always trying to share super valuable resources, tips, best practices, things like that. So even if you're not at the stage where you can afford to invest into a PR partner to help you get the job done, at least you can run with it yourself. And start chipping away at that effort. So definitely follow us on social. And yeah, just stay tuned for more tips, best practices, and insider secrets. Hopefully they help move the needle forward for you.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate having you on the show. You guys know what to do. Like, share, comment. There's so many people that need this. Not even if you're in the cannabis industry either. Like there was just practical tips shared today that you can use for any business, any industry. Amazing for your PR strategy. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And until next time. And there you have it. Mike is amazing. And I'm so glad that he entertained my antics. I can't help myself. I genuinely, again, if you're able to hop on over to the YouTube channel and watch this in the visual form, I genuinely love PR. I love connections. I love people. And most importantly, I love stories. And I can't see myself working in another industry because I love it so much. So I get excited when other professionals are co-signing on things that we see, or co-signing on the same strategies or the same tips. Like I really genuinely get excited because it's like, yes, we're all in alignment. We're all on the same page. We're all trying to move in the right direction. So thanks, Mike, for such an amazing interview. You guys know what to do. If you liked it, go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, share this with another business owner you think may need these helpful PR tips and strategies straight from the pros. And if you have any episode suggestions, don't be shy. Go ahead, reach out. Leah at think3, spell 3 all the way out, media.com. Or you can hit me up on Instagram at PR Yourself Podcast, or personally on my personal Instagram at The Leah Frazier, and let me know what you would like to hear. I put in the show notes a link so that you can join our Facebook community, PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I'll be going live from time to time with some of these same PR tips and strategies. We'll also be hosting workshops and just doing different things within that group. I also, if there's national or even city-specific inquiries that I get, I post that in the group, hoping that you all as well will be able to PR yourself in the press and in the media. So it's definitely a community that you'll want to join. Again, hitting that link in the show notes. And thank you so much for tuning in. There's going to be more soon. And until next time.